Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today, Scotty. I wanted to get a little bit more, dig a little deeper in your background, find out, how you grew up, where you started, and what makes you tick.
Well, my background goes engine wise, racing, everything, which is really my whole everything, my whole makeup. It started, I'm a second generation drag racer. My dad raced top fuel cars all through the 60s and early 70s. So I grew up around it. I'm old. And I was a very young child back then. But I do remember it. And that's what got me hooked. I was immediately attracted to it, and that's by the age of 4 or 5. That's literally, not figuratively, but that's literally all I ever wanted to do. I had no interest in ball sports and in anything else, and I just wanted to drive and work on top fuel cars, and work on engines, anything, and there certainly top fuel cars, and that was my love. So even after he retired, we continued to go. He, grew up in Southern California. So back then there was a lot of tracks open still. We went to everything, Ontario, Orange County, Irwindale, the real Irwindale. And we went to everything. We went everywhere. There wasn't a fuel car that fired up that I didn't go to. And my love for it just kept growing and growing and growing. I just wanted to drive those things. I wanted to sit in them. I wanted to drive them. I wanted to work on them. I wanted to make, I wanted to know what made them tick. And fortunately, my dad was more than happy to, oblige me and talk to me about them. He didn't drive them. His partner did, which was one of his best friends forever. And so I got to pick both their brains and just bug them to death. And, we continued to have boats. We had, our pleasure boats, which were, my dad didn't do anything stock, so those things were fairly fast. So, anytime the engine was apart in the shop for a freshen up, I was like right there in the way and trying to help. And if he built an engine for somebody else, I was right there. And just anytime I could get my hands in or on an engine or anything, I was there through all the years. That's all I cared about. And I just envisioned myself driving and working on engines. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I learned through the years slightly, just as much as I could, sponged. So by the time I was 14, I started that point where, my dad prior to 14 let me put our big block Chevy boat engine together by myself, probably at 13, I think, where he tested me. He said, go ahead, you can do this one. I'm a freshen up. And I was like, what? And I went ahead and did it. And that was probably the most nervous I'd ever been, even before or after. I can't remember. I've never been more nervous ever. And it ran bitching, had no leaks. I was pretty stoked, pretty proud of that one. But by 14, I was actually building engines for people. And by 15, 16, I was getting into some good cylinder head work and building really good engines. And by 16, I put together my first front engine super comp dragster for myself, and a good high compression solid roller. To today's standards would be a joke, but back then it was pretty fun. It was ran 860s at 160, and it was pretty cool. And my learning curve just kept skyrocketing, and worked for some out here in the San Fernando Valley. I worked for some pretty good places. I worked at Hogan's and West Coast Cylinder Heads, and ended up by 18 running the cylinder head department at Valley Head Service, and went off and worked for some professional nitro funny car teams. And after that, and came back, opened up my own engine and head shop in my early 20s. And just kept going and going and going. That's all I've ever done, though, is build engines and do cylinder heads. That's been my entire life. And that's why I can only do about 3 or 4 things really good, and I can't do anything else.
Tell us about your early days at AFR, where you met Ken, how that relationship transpired.
So Ken, it was a funny deal because with that first shop I opened, it had its good and it has its ebbs and flows, and it's busy times and slow times. So during one of its slower times in the it was late 80s, early 90s or something like that, I think it was, I was like, wow, if this stays slow like this, I need to get a job or do something. I need to do something, because it was just keeping the lights on for at some point. So I I went to some place. I looked and I went, airflow research is close by. I should go over there and see if I can get a job. And so I went, drove in. I went to, I just introduced myself. I didn't call ahead. I just kind of drove in and introduced myself and told him about myself and asked if he had any positions available, and he didn't, but he was nice enough to show me around. We hit it off, and he showed me the shop and this and that. And what he did have for me, though, was a big pile of cylinder heads that were all mostly bow tie Chevy heads, and a couple of dart heads and some stuff. I don't even really remember all what they were, but he says that, people bring me cylinder heads all the time of different brands for me to port and whatnot and do valve jobs. And he says, I'm so inundated with my own cylinder heads that we build that I just put off doing these things. We could do each other a favor here. You could load these all in your truck, basically fill the bed of my truck. And he said, you could load these in your truck, take them back to your shop, port them all up. When you're done, bring them back in. I'll pay you. I'll have more by then. You could and split and come back, and then I'm sorry I don't have a job for you, but maybe this will work. And it did. It saved my butt. So that worked out for quite a while. I don't remember how long that went on like that, but it really worked good. And it got me to know Ken, and it really worked. And it gave me some, ever since then, I have this. I can be pretty loyal, and it made me very loyal to Ken and AFR. At that point, even though I wasn't an employee, I was loyal to that man. And I didn't even meet Rick at that time. I didn't know Rick. And but fast forward a little bit further, Ken unfortunately passed away, and I went to work for AFR just after that, after his passing, and got to know Rick, of course, really well, who had taken over as president and stuff. And Rick and I worked together, and that's where I met CP and Rick, and CP and I worked together, and Rick and stuff. And that was in the later 90s. And but I always had this kind of loyalty, like I'll take a bullet for anybody with the last name of Sperling, because it got grandfathered down. That loyalty that I felt for Ken got grandfathered into Rick, and I love Rick ever since, and would take a bullet for him. And that got grandfathered down again into Chris Sperling, who runs our engineering department, and he knows that too. And if Chris ever has a kid, it'll keep going on down and down and down. I love the Sperlings for that, and they're good people. And we're going to miss Rick a lot when he's finally retired. But just to let everybody know out there, we get the questions, what's it like, and what's this? Everybody knows by this point that we've been, there's been a change here in the ownership of AFR and this ownership group and stuff. I'm going to tell you with all honesty, 100%, as honest as I can, and this is on everything. It's awesome, this ownership change. It's not hurt the company, it's helped the company. Was it bad before? No, it's helping it grow. And are we going to miss Rick? Terribly. But Rick, I'm going to tell you folks, he's still part of the ownership. He's just retiring from coming in day to day. He's still part of the ownership and will continue to be. And we're fortunate for that. But we're still being led by Chris Paul, who's, been really the brains of how this place functions and how we produce heads and why we've been able to grow the way we have. It's been his, brainchild downstairs. And we're very fortunate to have that. We have our new CEO in Sean Sterling, who's been just a fantastic guy. You think of a CEO coming in as this guy in a suit, and he's been he could be a real, what? This guy's a gem. He's brilliant, but yet he's fun to be around. So this whole thing, because some people I know out there are a little bit, nervous about that for AFR. AFR is getting better. It went from fantastic to even better. Nobody needs to worry about this. We're certainly not here. Things are getting better. And by the way, I know our lead times. I know this wasn't asked. but our lead times that were getting a little bit, rough because things were, for a lot of reasons, out of our control and out of our, the things that we couldn't do anything about, foundries closing, this, that, and whatever, are actually trending to the better now. Things are getting better. The foundry situations are getting fixed. Supplies are getting better. Our lead times are trending to the better. So real quick, just wanted everybody to know things are getting better. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for asking, by the way. And thank you, guys. Can't wait for another video to come out. There's going to be some great ones. We're going to blow some minds. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thank you.